In a little less than a year, Windows is going to double down on generating massive amounts of e-waste as several Windows 10 computers fall out of support and do not meet the technical requirements for Windows 11. Let's go ahead and discuss this fun principle. Welcome back to Switch to Linux, where we talk around here about switching to Linux and various other elements around that, including some of the weird things Windows is doing, which might drive us or even encourage us in some ways to test it out. If you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And today, though, we are going to be talking about Windows eWaste, as a blog post rolled out last week. And then kind of in response to this, they've updated one of their Windows system requirements blog posts shortly thereafter, kind of backstepping, but kind of not backstepping, in just that perfect way that Microsoft has a tendency to do. So let's go ahead and have a look at what is going on here and what the various options are. So there's a number of different, I think every tech journal came out with a related article to this. I like the one from PC Mag the best. So Microsoft, tough hardware requirements for Windows 11 are non-negotiable. Primarily, this is just about TPM 2.0. Everything else is, if then, but ultimately, this is about TPM 2.0. Now, the actual blog post here addresses this specifically. TPM 2.0, a necessity for secure and future-proof Windows 11. Of course, we weren't supposed to have a Windows 11. Remember when Windows 10 was supposed to be the last one? So we have to first talk a little bit about what is TPM before we get into that. Now, of course, they actually have a long-winded article here. A lot of modern computers, probably in the last 3 or so years will pretty much all have TPM 2.0 support. Prior to that, if you had TPM support, you might have had 2 if it were bleeding edge, but typically you'd have a 1.2, which is not supported. And ultimately what TPM is you can think of it as a YubiKey permanently affixed to your motherboard. So what this allows you to do is allows you to decrypt an at-risk encrypted hard drive on system boot. It verifies that the computer is what it's supposed to be through the secure boot platform. And it is also used for passkey support. So like Windows Hello, for example, is a passkey where you might need to verify something while you're using software. This is one of those things they rolled out in the recall system after a bunch of potential security blunders that were mentioned. And in light of all of this, what happens here is that this is effectively a YubiKey that verifies that this is the computer that has authorization for these at both at-rest and in-motion encryption implementations. Now, it is not required to have this device. We can still get around these various things. We can build computers there where you enter the passkeys. I do that. All my computers are encrypted. I just use a passkey to unlock the computer. Is it radically inconvenient to enter a long, complicated password when I first turn the system on? Not really. It takes all of about 5 seconds. Not a big deal. When we're talking about passkeys and things like that, you can use YubiKeys. You can even use KeyPass XC. We did a video last year about using KeyPass XC without big tech. And so there are ways around this module, this platform, and there are a number of other alternatives as well. Now, what Windows is trying to do is trying being super user-friendly to the point where the security becomes transparent. Now, that is good in that non-technical people don't even know what's going on, but it's bad in that non-technical people don't even know what's going on. If something goes goofy and you need the passkeys, or something goes wrong with that computer and you lose access to something because the only thing it was tied to was a security module you didn't even know was in place in your system, well, that can be devastating consequences in those respects. And so this is ultimately, it is a good thing for security. It's nice to have it. and it does actually do the job that it wants to do. And that's really what the blog post here is about from Microsoft. They wanted to talk about the various things I talk about: at-risk encryption. This is if your hard drive is stolen when your computer is turned off, people are not going to be able to get into it without the TPM module on the system or without the passkey to the drive. Of course, with Windows doing the things Windows does, it now decrypts everything and puts those passkeys in the cloud so that some law enforcement agency with a warrant can gain access to the decryption key for your hard drive. So no more pleading the fifth, I guess. And then, of course, you have, they talk about isolation. They talk about the seamless integration. This is that part I had just mentioned where it's a very good security module in a circumstance where people don't even know a security module is present. And that raises a concern. Security modules and encryption and things like this are really good things when you know it's there. And Windows has made it easy to use these without people knowing it's there, so they don't realize if you migrate your hard drive or if something goes wrong with your TPM module and you're trying to get data off your hard drive, they don't even know they need the decryption key. And so ultimately, the point is that it is really good security. It is something that we should certainly consider, but it should not be something that is an absolute requirement because there are fundamental challenges. If that module goes bad, you lose everything. That's the bottom line. They have in here how you can look at that. Their ultimate idea here is that TPM 2.0 will be a requirement for Windows 11. And so ultimately, that's what the blog post, this one here, this article from PC Mag and several other ones we're getting to. They still will require TPM 2.0. And ultimately, this is because they want you to encrypt your hard drive to the point that all new Windows installs after 24H2 are automatically encrypting your drive by default. Not if you've upgraded to it, but if you were to have to reinstall Windows, it is automatically encrypting your hard drive, even if you don't know it's doing that. It wants you to use the Windows Hello system, which is a passkey system allowing you to use things like Windows Recall without you realizing what is going on. And of course, if you are using Windows Hello, it is a way that you can use as an authenticator application, an OTP application type system. Now, of course, I use KeePass for stuff like that because it is portable. If something goes wrong with my computer, all of that stuff is saved in the KeePass file. I can move that to another computer and still access all of my devices. And so that is good. Now it's you still technically can get Windows 11 to install. This was sort of the update that was made to a help article here, and this was thanks Ivan alerted me to this article right before I recorded the video here, so I knew to include this. What they did is they updated it and added this bold text here. Ultimately, Windows is telling you, and they did this because they see so many people are still using 10, and a lot of people are leaving Windows 11 to go back to Windows 10 because Windows 10 has some stability to it and good features that Windows 11 is just annoying people. It's so full of ads. It's so full of trying to cram AI everywhere. They're trying to do all sorts of stuff that your operating system is no longer this transparent system allowing you to use your device. It is becoming this thing that is constantly nagging you and constantly in your way. And that's not what an operating system should be. And so what they do here is they mention here it is not recommended, and it says there's maybe some things don't work, and they even say, ooh, it might even break your computer. Is that technically possible? Well, Stuxnet was a virus that broke hardware, maybe. But PC doesn't meet this. This is the big bold they just added. You have to agree to this. If you're trying to update Windows 11 without the minimum requirements, in other words, the TPM module, then you can still do it. They're not going to block you, but you have to agree to this. PC doesn't meet the system requirements for running Windows 11. These requirements ensure a more reliable and higher quality experience. Installing Windows 11 on this PC is not recommended and may result in compatibility issues. If you proceed with installing Windows 11 to your PC, you will no longer be supported and won't be entitled to receive updates. Damages to your PC due to lack of compatibility aren't covered under the manufacturer warranty. And by selecting accept, you are acknowledging you have read and understand this statement. So obviously, if you're not going to risk, the warranty issue, because you either have to go with an unsecure system that they're not updating or something that they won't support. You don't have a warranty at that point anyway. Okay. And as far as everything else, they're just kind of fear-mongering you into it because they really want to generate that e-waste because it gives them more money. More money from Microsoft, which is very frightening. We're going to get into the e-waste here in a moment. I had one more thing here to say. They could simply disable the features requiring TPM 2.0 instead of giving you compatibility issues. Of course, they don't want to do that. They want to generate e-waste. And so when we're talking about generating e-waste, what's going on here is they are pushing out, they're doing another round of full screen ads. This article, the author here, Andrew Cunningham, the full screen ad he got was actually just for a Game Pass type thing with a Windows upgrade. And ultimately, what these are warning people about is that Windows 10 is out of support in October of 2025, which is less than 1 year from now. Your Windows computer will no longer get security updates. Now, will your Windows computer still work? Yes, it will, but they will no longer be doing security patches on it. You can purchase, as a consumer, you can purchase 1 year of extended support for $30. Businesses and education can do 3 years of support, which is a lot more. Well, education is a lot cheaper. Business is a little bit more to allow a transitional period. But the ultimate goal is that by 3 years, they want everybody running Windows 11. This is ultimately what they're doing here is they're looking at the various ways you can use your computer and then giving you the appropriate full screen ad that they think is going to cause you to upsell. Now, what's going to happen is the consumers are going to be seriously hurt by this. And the reason is that it's forcing people to expend money that they don't have. So Forbes magazine from October, this is just a couple of months ago, this week in credit card news, 40% of households now rely on credit cards to pay the bills. We have had a really bad economy for the last few years. Food prices have skyrocketed. Gas prices have skyrocketed. More people right now are putting basic household needs on credit cards for the first time in a while. People don't have as much money. And now Microsoft comes out and starts telling everybody, you have to buy a whole new computer. We can't afford to buy bread without putting it on a credit card. And you want to run around and tell people, throw away your perfectly good computer because we will not support it. Now, yes, you can install Windows 11 with that crazy workaround, and the workaround is in that article, and it's not going to be something your average person knows how to do. They're going to pull out the piece of plastic, which is a lot easier, and go further into debt by buying a computer that is going to have Windows 11, because it's an unsurmountable bridge to get Windows 11 installed on their current system. This forces people to go more into debt so that Microsoft can sell more Windows licenses. The computer industry can sell more computers. Obviously, the people buying things might help the computer economy, but at the expense of their own households is kind of problematic. And that's what I was getting at there. Whereas that old computer works just fine. It's Microsoft refusing to support them that is the broken part about this. So what can we do? Well, what we can do about this is we can do that serious examination of switching to Linux. Okay. Not everybody can totally switch to Linux. There are some people that will need to get a new computer. There are going to be some people that will need to get Windows 11 working on their existing computer to save a little bit of money. But not everybody needs Windows. That's the first thing I want you to evaluate. And don't be like, well, X software I like isn't on Linux. That is a really bad way to think. Okay. I'm going to get into that in a moment. But first and foremost, examine if you're using your computer for web browsing and emails and fun tinkering and things like that, outside of AAA gaming, you're going to be just fine on Linux. AAA gaming, there are still some issues with some of the anti-cheat. Most other gaming is resolved at this point in time. If you just play the occasional video game for fun, chances are somebody out there will give you good instructions on how to get it installed on Linux. If you're just doing emails and web browsing and entertainment type stuff, that all works on Linux. I've heard Peacock may not. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I can't imagine that it wouldn't install Google Chrome. I'd rather you run Linux and have Google Chrome to watch Peacock than stick with Windows to watch Peacock, okay? I'm not into either one of those two, to be honest, but it's an option. And I don't know, maybe I need to test it out and see if I can get it to work. The next point I want to make about this is start now. Start now. Looking at a transition to Linux now. Don't wait until your Windows is no longer receiving security updates. You will have a much smoother transition. You will stick with Linux longer if you make a slow move. What does that look like? Well, what that's going to look like is first you look at your software. Examine all of the software you actually use. First, look at the day-to-day stuff. Chances are the day-to-day stuff, it is all on Linux as well. Web browsers, email clients, things like this. Our world is mostly web-based. Nearly every web browser, if it's on Windows, it's on Linux. You can go ahead and install those. You can even install Edge on it if you happen to be so inclined to use it. You can use Edge on Linux. You can use Google Chrome on Linux. Most of them come with Firefox or other more privacy emphasizing browsers, but there are other options you have. If you have software that you need that does not run on Linux, look for alternatives. Alternative2.net is an excellent place. Plug in the software and then see what alternatives there are. You can even filter specifically for Linux to say what Linux software is like this I can run. And when we get into this, don't think about I have to have this program. Think about I have to do this task. Okay, so looking at the task, look at the software. Clearly, as I said at the very front, not everybody can switch. If you are an absolute professional graphic designer working in some studio or whatever else, it's an unfortunate reality of our world. You probably need Photoshop. You're not going to be able to switch to Linux. But if you're just an at-home guy and you like to do some photo editing, stop thinking you need Photoshop. On top of saving you several $100s a year, because you'll be able to drop your subscription, you can do all of that with a lot of different free software available in Linux. So think about the task you need to accomplish, not the specific software. As far as testing out Linux, if you have a higher end computer now, you probably meet those Windows 11 requirements. Let's take my computer here. My computer is actually pretty high end, but it doesn't meet the requirements for Windows 11. Why? Because my computer is still using a Ryzen 5 1600 and the TPM 2.0 module wasn't supported in Ryzen until Ryzen 2000. So I'm pretty sure my computer would not meet the requirements for it, but it is a beefy computer otherwise. If you have something like that and you're trying to examine it, look at virtualization. You can run VirtualBox, free download on any platform. You can download a Linux ISO, drop it in there. I have videos about how to run virtual machines. You can get around that. You can install on it. You can play around with it. You can see what it does. You can play with things. If you don't have that type of computer, then you can install, like you can either download Etcher or any application like that where you can download an ISO image. You can burn that ISO image onto a flash drive and you can boot your computer into that Linux device without actually installing anything, so you're not messing up your computer. It's just giving you the chance to tinker a little bit. Now, in a live setting like that, you're not going to be able to save anything or persistently install new software. There's ways to do that, but we're just talking about testing out Linux, see what it can do. So the idea, though, is you want to do something to get used to how Linux works as a process, see how to install software. You want to test out editing doing images in GIMP over Photoshop. They're different applications, but if you're already proficient in one, you're going to become proficient in the other. I actually prefer GIMP these days to Photoshop, having specialized in both for a number of years. And ultimately, what you can do is you can save a lot of money, get out of the privacy nightmare that is Windows, and keep your current computer and run it securely with Linux. You just got to start now and start planning for this. Don't wait until October of next year when they're giving you full page ads every single day to buy a new computer. Start playing around with Linux today so you can get a chance to see what it looks like. With that, thank you for watching this video. If you like this type of content, you like what you've seen here, subscribe to the channel for more content like us. Leave us a like and a comment down below, and I'm going to leave you with a Linux video slowly switching to Linux. Give that a try, give that a watch, see if you like anything in there. And with that, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.